Good morning, everybody. It's so good to see all of you. Thanks for joining us today for our panel on failing forward. I have to tell you, this is a topic near and dear to my heart, and it's a little ironic for me to even be here this morning looking out at all of you. I still remember when I was 8 years old, looking at myself in the mirror and swearing I would never get married. Why? Because the thought of everybody looking at me and paying attention to me just seemed like death itself. Well, I'm happy to report that not only did I survive my eventual wedding day, but I even enjoyed it. It was one of the best days of my life. And so today, our panel is really excited to join with all 1,400 plus of you and discuss this so important topic. My name is Josh Ambrose, and I'm the Director of Student Ventures here at Johns Hopkins University. I help oversee our FastForward U and Social Innovation Lab programs. There's more information about those on your seats and up on the screen here today. But these initiatives help support creative students interested in changing the world through innovation and entrepreneurship. Just to give you a sense of scale, last year we worked with over 250 Hopkins teams that are interested in making their mark on the world. And in the last 5 years, Hopkins Student Ventures and community partners have raised well over $200 million in outside funding to help their ventures move forward. Some of those folks are represented here on the stage today, and I'm so looking forward to the conversation. And I have to tell you, in case you didn't know, entrepreneurship is something that is full of risk. It requires boldness. And I believe that it's an indispensable mindset to have in the 21st century. I look at the sobering headlines around us every day. I see the issues that are facing us as humanity and a part of our planet. And I need you to join with us in being creative and taking those risks to move us forward. To that end, I want to invite you to participate in this upcoming conversation. And I hit the back button. There we go. You've all been using this text number throughout orientation to ask questions. We're going to continue asking questions today. So at any point, if you have a question or a comment, I encourage you to text this number and we will read it out and go ahead and integrate it into our discussion. Now, to introduce our panel and to take us forward, it is my very real pleasure to introduce Dr. Farouk Dey, Vice Provost for Integrative Learning and Life Design. Dr. Dey is an incredible ally to our student and a thought leader around the world. In 2018, Farouk introduced a new philosophy to the Johns Hopkins community called life design. Rather than students planning careers on little information, instead, students get to explore their curiosities, experiment with ideas, and grow their networks. Since then, he and his team have achieved record growth in career engagement, satisfaction and outcomes. They've raised funds for student experiential learning outside of the classroom. They've scaled alumni mentoring and corporate recruiting and opened the Imagine Center for Integrative Learning and Life Design on the north side of the Homewood campus. Again, it's my very real pleasure and just so excited to welcome to the stage. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dey. Thank you, sir.
I teach people how to design their lives. I teach people how to design their lives for a living. At least that's what I tell my Uber and Lyft drivers when they pick me up. And when I say that, I hear all the most incredible stories about why they choose to do this either part-time or full-time and what their life aspirations are. And what I hear from them are themes, common themes of what is most important to them. These are the top 3 that I learned from them. Is that a lot of them are doing this and are pursuing careers for the sake of compensation, but they care a lot about flexibility and work-life balance. Turns out that these are the top 3 factors that employees look for based on the most recent survey by LinkedIn. But there is one more thing that is not mentioned in that survey that I hear about over and over from my Lyft drivers. And it is fulfillment and excitement about what one does. This is a Lyft driver in Washington, D.C. If you take one down there, or if you're from there, you might have taken a ride with him. I think it's called Disco Cab or something like this. And during the holidays, whatever your holiday, he'll go full force in that. He has a YouTube channel. I think you can follow him on TikTok. And I rode with him when I was really late to catch a train. And he really, he helped me deal with the stress of being late quite a bit. So as soon as I entered, it was full on music, ho, 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 and lots of excitement. And that's how he manages to find meaning in the work that he does. Or meet Mr. Han, another Lyft driver here in Baltimore, who is a former US vet turned architect and designer. And as he was driving me around the city, he was showing me all the buildings he's worked on with other teams to design. And after he retired, he got a license plate that he titled Service, because he truly cared about service. And that's what he really wanted to do. And he used Lyft driving to do that, not for the money, but really for the fun and for the excitement and for being in service for others. It was one of the more memorable journeys that I've taken with a Lyft driver. If you take Lyft, by the way, this is not endorsement for Lyft, it's just the one that I take the most. What I've learned from all of these Lyft drivers is that they're all chasing fulfillment and chasing meaning in their careers. And what I've learned is that you don't find it with the traditional methods that you might have learned throughout your entire life. You don't try to fit yourself in exactly perfectly in the way that you think society wants you to be. Imagine it to look a little bit like this, you know, like the old widower putting balloons up on a house, headed for a different destination, and seeing what happens, you know, taking all the risk that is involved in that. You see, throughout your entire lives, you have been taught for you to find your passion. What is your passion? And try to find that. But the truth is that this is the most incredibly stressful question that you shouldn't have to ask. What is your passion? For that passion is for you to construct, to design, to build, not to find. Let me share a little bit more about that. The best way to find your passion is to start first by getting insanely curious. What are you most curious about is the question you should be asking yourself as a first-year student here at the university, not what am I passionate about or what do I want to do with my life. So let's play a little game here. Pretend or imagine that in the next 5 years, nothing will change in your life and you will stay the course. Whatever course you're on now, you will stay on it. And try to think for a quick second what the outcome will be. Where will you be in the next 4 to 5 years? Most likely you can predict with great accuracy if nothing changes where you will be. There is very little uncertainty, there's more comfort, less anxiety, less stress, but also less of those butterflies in your stomach, you know, like in your gut, that feeling of excitement that maybe many of us really long for. Now let's think of plan B. What would happen if you had a curveball in that journey throughout the next 4 to 5 years? Where do you think your life will be in the next 4 or 5 years if you stayed the course, but something outside of your sphere of influence changes that course? That sometimes can be a tragedy. Sometimes it can be something really exciting. It could be a sickness. It could be a death of a close family member or a close friend. Or it could be a happy event. You could meet someone here at the university, and you could come up with a great idea that you decide to pursue. If you had a curveball, maybe you take a class that just changes your life. Maybe you fail a class, and that'll change your life, and it'll move you in a different direction. Now you have a little bit less certainty about the future, but probably more anxiety, but more excitement about it. Now let's think about Plan X. What would it look like if you pursued Plan X, which is your wildest and craziest idea that's in your gut that maybe you haven't verbalized before, or you have. Maybe you're afraid that people won't take you seriously, or will think that you are crazy for thinking even that. What would happen if you actually really pursued it? And you took the greater risk to do it. Similar to the old widower who put balloons up in the house and decided to just go. What would happen if you made your most audacious move? The truth is that in 5 years, you really don't know what the outcome is. You are not sure what risks you're really taking. Will you fail? How often will you fail? Will the failure be catastrophic? There are lots of questions about what will happen, but one thing is for sure, is that you will reach a certain level of excitement about this future direction that could literally change the rest of your life. And that is really what our conversation is today, is what would happen if you dared to fail often and failed in a spectacular way and try things out in the most exciting ways. This is really what is called life design, a methodology that we use here at Johns Hopkins University. It's the idea for you to empathize and connect with your deepest areas of curiosity, try them out, prototype them all the time, get more and more comfortable with the concept of failure, and connect with people who can help you open doors as you move forward. It is also called planned happenstance. What would happen if you just took a chance and tried things out in the craziest way, and you will really get curious, you are persistent, you're flexible, you're optimistic, and you're really taking risks. What we've learned through our work with students, and what I've learned for the last 20 years of doing this type of work, is that there are 3 profiles of highly fulfilled and highly successful people. You want to know what they are? First, they're highly curious. That is all of you. That is human beings. We come out of the womb highly curious about life, about the world. That is our nature. The problem is, do we do the other 2 things to turn that curiosity into something? So I introduce you to profile 2. These are people who try things out despite the high risks of failure. They give it a shot. They try it out. They experiment. And number 3, they are highly connected. Whether they come with predetermined connections or they develop skills that allow them to build more connections and more networks. If you do these 3 things, you allow yourself to explore your curiosity, you try things out and you experiment, and you are highly connected, or you develop connections and relationships with your fellow students, but also with faculty, with alumni, you get mentors, you follow up with them, it makes a big difference on your life journey. So the idea here is for you to really shift how you're going to proceed in your next few years of college by constantly getting curious, trying things out, and talking with people and connecting with people, because what that will get you is knowing stuff, getting good at stuff, and knowing people. You do that by consuming content and programs and courses that will get you the know stuff. It's to experiment all the time through internships and undergraduate research and study abroad and entrepreneurship and on-campus jobs and leadership and getting involved and knowing people, not only your class and other students, but also the alumni community, the employers and companies that come and engage with us, the investors, the people who make Johns Hopkins what it is today. That is how you get to passion. You don't go and find it. It's not a scavenger hunt. College is not a scavenger hunt. You construct your passion by getting good at what you do and by connecting with people who have similar values. So this all reminds me of my most recent Lyft driver experience. This is a guy who dropped out of his job in order to pursue his full career in music. You can find him on Apple Music, and he is really putting it all out there for the world to see. So for you, this is what I wish, is that you have the bravery and the courage to fail often, and fail in spectacular ways, and try things out by pursuing your curiosity and connecting with lots of people. And as Joseph Campbell says in my most preferred quote, if the path before you is clear, you are probably on someone else's. So go on and plan and pave your own pathways. Thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome our fellow panelists today who will share with us their stories of failing often and in spectacular ways. I'd love to hear from you about your journey at Johns Hopkins University. What were your experiences of trying something really interesting, and what was the most challenging about it and the most rewarding, and perhaps maybe some interesting stories of failure in that. So I'd love to have you introduce yourself that way. Perhaps we'll start with you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Mia. I graduated Johns Hopkins in 2021. I studied Chem BE, and I'm working on a jewelry brand called Mo.Na Gems. It's a sustainable jewelry brand that uses biodegradable materials to create our jewelry. And Mecca and I started it during our senior year of college. So I'll pass it on to Mecca.
You have to talk about how you failed.
Oh, okay. Well, so I guess one way I failed was actually when I first got to campus. I failed my Physics 2 exam really badly, and I felt like I didn't belong. I felt kind of like everyone here is so much smarter than me. I don't belong here, and I definitely felt a sense of imposter syndrome, and I struggled with that initially. So after that first failure, I realized that was actually a really big stepping stone, because for my second exam, I remember studying really hard, and I was like, I got this. As long as I put my mind to it, I'll be able to accomplish this. And I ended up getting a really great grade on the second exam. And that just proved to myself that if I set my mind to it, I will be able to accomplish many things. And I carried that lesson on throughout the rest of my college experience. So even when I was working on Mo.Na with Mecca, there were so many times we failed. And instead of seeing this as something that I found discouraging, I used it as a stepping stone. Yeah.
That was a great story, Mia. But something Mia forgot to mention is that we created the bioplastic ourselves.
Yeah.
So through that, we had to fail a bunch of times. It was just L after L.
And it was during COVID, so we were making this formula in our kitchens. We didn't have access to a lab.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
But yeah, so my name is Mecca. I graduated class of 2021. I double majored in psychology and economics. Something that I think I failed at, when I was a freshman, I remember deciding that I didn't want to pursue medicine anymore. And to me, I felt like a huge failure. I felt like I was letting my family down, because I spent like 4 years working towards that goal. But I don't know, I got here and I realized that I only wanted to do it for the money, and I was like, you can't just do something for the money, you won't be fulfilled. And I realized that what I wanted at 14 isn't what I wanted at 18, and that it was okay to change my mind. And even though that was a challenging decision, it was also very rewarding, because it allowed me to take different classes that I was actually interested in, and it allowed me to, during my senior year, create Mo.Na with Mia and another successful business, and it gave me the opportunity to pursue my art after college.
Good morning. My name is Bill Kirst. I graduated in 2000, Arts and Sciences. When I think about my arc at Hopkins, I similarly started off in a place of failure. In fact, my freshman year, my first semester, I was on academic probation. And the reason being is because I had a really hard time adjusting back to the culture in the US. I actually grew up overseas as what's called a third culture kid. So I spent time in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. And when I came to Hopkins, I had a really hard time adjusting. But I'm here to tell you that that arc of progress is one that's rewarding, because by the time I graduated Hopkins, I was Dean's List. And we'll talk a little bit, I think, today about what happened in between. But when we think about failure, I also want you to think about the origins of the word. I'm a geek for words. I have an etymology dictionary at home. I start every day flipping to a random page and looking at the origin of that word. And the origin of the word fail comes from the Latin fallere, which means to deceive. And I want you to think about that for a second, because when we fail, we try things, right? Farouk told us, you try things. None of you sets out to deceive anyone when you try something new. So I would challenge you to challenge that origin of that definition and maybe replace the word failure with heartbreak. I think failure is just a more accepted term in society for heartbreak. Why? Because when we set our heart on something, sometimes it doesn't work out. But I'm also here to tell you that some of the best inventions, innovations, inspiration comes from a place of heartbreak. I'm excited to talk today on the panel about that.
My name is Alex. I graduated Hopkins 2022, studied computer science, and minored in entrepreneurship. Also played basketball while I was at Hopkins and started a couple companies with the help of Farouk. Now I'm a co-founder of a company called Leap AI. We help businesses and developers generate images and music with AI. And we're in San Francisco. And I think the whole arc of starting companies is just failing continuously, really never ending. Even now, I think we're on we're on maybe level 3 of the startup game, right? And I think it could fail at any moment. So, I think we can dive into the stories, but over my time at Hopkins, I probably went through, dozens of ideas, committed, spent chapters of 2 years or more of my life on ideas, and, it's all just led me to where I am now. So, yeah, we can dive into that.
Hey everyone, I'm Pava. I am currently the CEO of EcoMap. I graduated 2019, studied computer science for 3 years, dropped out of that my junior year, and then did sociology. And so you could consider a lot of those things failures, but made it through. When I look back at my time at Hopkins, I really kind of defined it by trying as many things as I possibly could. And at the time, I, like Mecca, had wanted to be a doctor my entire life, and got to Hopkins and realized that I did not, a little bit late. And so I got really interested in entrepreneurship, and this was long before FastForward existed. There was really no incubator, accelerator, no ecosystem, anything like that. And so my first venture was kind of building out the entrepreneurial ecosystem here. And part of that involved starting an incubator to help other students build their startup ideas out. Of course, I had no business doing it whatsoever. I was 20 and had never really started a real startup before. And so I decided to. I got together a bunch of students, tried to find a problem, and worked on that startup diligently for 2 years of my time at Hopkins and put so much into it, told so many people about it. We even got one of the very early awards for funding for it. And then I think I got to my junior year when I had to really just accept that it was a god-awful idea. And so much to the point that we actually called Josh back and returned the money. And I remember at that moment just feeling so exposed, because not only had I started and failed this startup, but I had convinced a bunch of students at Hopkins that I could lead an incubator in order to help them start their companies. And so somehow miraculously, not only did the incubator continue to go well, but then I got the chance to run the accelerators when FastForward was formed. And the company that I had started after I wrapped that one up is the pretty large company that I'm currently running today. So, worked out.
Well, we're getting some good questions coming in from the audience already, and I would encourage you to keep texting them here. But the first one I wanted to highlight is we had a student who wanted to know, how do you kind of balance your own learning style with the competitive pressure of being here at Hopkins? or after you graduate. And so, Mecca, I'm wondering if you could take that first, and then maybe Alex, you can jump in after her.
So the question is, how do I balance my learning style?
Yeah, how did you find your own pace, your own approach to life, really, amidst all of these pressures on campus, from your family, and then from the world after graduation?
Well, I'm a naturally curious person, and I'm also very intuitive. So if I'm trying something new and I can be consistent with it, but if it just feels wrong, then I'll just admit that it's okay for me to move on to something else. But I do think the best way to learn something is trying and failing. I think that when you try something new, you're gonna come up against your own ego and you're gonna come up against your own limitations, and that is really uncomfortable. But I think that if you accept that that's a part of the process, and if it's something that you're really excited about and it's something that you actually wanna do, you'll move past those uncomfortable feelings and you'll open yourself up to growth, you'll open yourself up to learning, and yeah.
I think there's like 3 ways you can approach learning. The first is you can consume a bunch of content about it. You can read textbooks, you can watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, do research online, and you have a lot of information about the thing at that point. But then the second thing is like you could go and actually do it, and then you find out that sometimes that information doesn't actually translate to the in-practice application of the thing. And then the third way is, I think, to apprentice someone who's already done it, because that kind of closes the gap of the information that you might have, or you might not even know what you don't know. And so I think the way I've approached learning my whole life, and while at Hopkins, has been to find who the best people are around me at a certain thing, and really go and apprentice them. I think I'm a big believer that you become like the people that you're around most. Yeah. And my first day actually at Hopkins as a freshman, as fate, I don't know if it was fate or whatever, but I ended up meeting Farouk Dey at freshman orientation barbecue. So you guys will probably have that. And since then, we've worked together for now 5 years. He was initially co-founder and then advisor at my first startup at Hopkins. And he's really changed my life. And so he's just one example of finding someone who is in a field or ahead of where you want to be, and just being relentless about following up and establishing a relationship and showing that you really care, and having them invest back in you. And so that's kind of how I've approached learning. Even now, moving out to San Francisco and getting into that space and the startups there, it's really been about how do I find the people that are where I want to be.
I want to ask a question to you, Bill. So you started a podcast. Did you know how to do podcasts before that? How did you throw yourself into that? So talk a little bit about that journey. Yeah. The reason I'm picking on that example is because we live in an age where everyone feels like they can just go and be a content creator. Right. And then, they go, I could do this. And then you just go about it. So talk a little bit about that journey of failure and trial and error.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started this podcast called Coffee and Change about 6 years ago. And like you said, there was nothing, I couldn't necessarily just watch a couple YouTube videos and figure it out. At the time, it was pretty early in the platform of podcasting. And I basically had to teach myself, and I had to try and fail. I had to teach myself about audio engineering. I had to teach myself about microphones. I had to teach myself about how to connect with people that would want to come tell their story on my platform. I had to understand why they might want to actually gift me their time. And as I learned along the way, I realized that just when you think you've learned it all, there's more that you haven't discovered. So there's always more around the corner. And the great thing about the era that we live in now, it's changed all the time. So you're going to get to a point where you apprentice with someone, you're going to feel really confident about your skills. And then you're going to realize, oh, there's another innovation, or there's another advancement. And to me, that's what kept me going, Farouk, was this aspect of when it came to podcasting and this ecosystem, nobody had the answer book on it, to be fair. Everybody was saying it's a very diverse ecosystem, and some people want metrics, other people want content, other people want connection. And for me, I loved being my own boss in this aspect, and I got to choose what my metric was. And my metric was about connection and compassion and storytelling. And it was through that lens that I said, use that to pursue who you talk to, what you talk about, and how you change lives. And the best part about it, the podcast, it's become a living classroom for me. I mean, when I invite people on and they tell their stories, the host is not the hero of these stories. The guests, the people telling their stories, are the heroes. And you had a Joseph Campbell quote up there before. I mean, to me, if any of you have any opportunity to study and understand the hero's journey, you're embarking on the beginning of a hero's journey today and this week, right? You will go through all sorts of trials and tribulations, and at the end of it, you'll understand who you are. And the podcast for me gave me permission, Farouk, to do that through the inquiry, the curiosity of understanding people's lives. And then by happenstance, I learned a lot about myself. And now it's 130 episodes later. I do it all from home. I don't have a producer. I don't have an editor. I do it all myself. And I love it that way because I'm a Hopkins grad, and we love challenges and we love learning.
And similar to a podcast, I think, Mecca, for example, you've had to go through moments where you're not getting the positive reinforcement from the environment. You're not, whether it's from a person or from the buyers, it's not. How do you get through that and keep going and continue to pursue your idea?
I think that there's just something about me that when something is really hard, or if someone tells me that I can't do something, I just have to prove that wrong. And I think especially working with Mia, when we were working on Mo.Na, our first prototypes for our bioplastic were so ugly. It looked so awful. But every day that we worked on it, I was like, oh my God, we're so close. We're almost there. And I think that kept me going. Anytime there was a slight change or a slight bit of progress or a little bit of improvement, that just got me excited. And even though we didn't necessarily know what we wanted our end product to look like, I think we both had a shared vision on what we wanted to feel like, how we wanted it, the texture, the mechanical properties. And I think that, when you try new things, you're gonna feel like a failure, and that's okay. But I've learned that feeling like a failure just means that you're trying something new, and you can either use that as a signal to quit, or you can use that as a signal that there's just more to learn and that you're growing.
Our audience is going pretty deep here on some of their questions, so keep them coming in. But our next one is around mental health. A lot of great questions coming to the front of the room here about how mental health interacts with this whole idea of failing forward. And folks want to know, again, what are your strategies there, not just for self-care, but for, again, moving forward and dealing with all those pressures. So Mia, I'm hoping I can go to you first, and then maybe Bill, if you want to follow up.
Yeah, so I would say that whenever I'm not, me personally, whenever I'm not doing something creative, something about me feels off. And I was definitely feeling that throughout my college experience, where I'm actually an artist, so I wasn't creating the art that I wanted to create. And senior year, I really felt that because I had been studying engineering. I was thinking about going into patent law, and I was working part-time as a paralegal, and I had a paralegal job lined up for me after graduating. And I was just I don't know if this is it for me. I wasn't feeling passionate about it, and I think because of that, I was sad. I was sad, and I wasn't excited about graduating and starting this new job. And that's why when Mecca and I started working on Mo.Na senior year, something switched in me. I suddenly felt a lot happier because I was pursuing my passions. And so for me, in order to keep good mental health, I think it's about creating art, doing the things that I love, and working on things I'm passionate about. And so if what you're starting is something you're passionate about, I think that is like a great way to like stay happy and excited. So yeah.
I would definitely echo that. The ability to create something is, I believe, paramount to our existence as humans. And when you talk about the mental health journey, I'm really glad that somebody asked that question, because I began my mental health journey here at Johns Hopkins University. I'm grateful for the doctors, not only on the academic side, but also in the places like the counseling center, because somebody had the audacity to come up to me and say, hey, I think if you're not careful, you're gonna burn out. I was a residential advisor at the time, and being an RA saved my life. So you're just getting to know your RAs. I can tell you something about your RAs. You'll never forget their name, and they will play an integral role in your life. And I was an RA, and I was overextended, and I was helping every one of my freshman students, but at the detriment of my own health. And somebody pulled me aside and said, if you're not careful, you're gonna burn out. And when you burn out, you can't help anybody. And you're wired to help people. I'm from a large family, I'm one of 6 kids. I've always known taking care of people. So when I stepped into that role, I did it fervently. But thankfully, somebody pulled me aside and said, you have these amazing resources here at Johns Hopkins. You should go talk to someone and figure out how to balance those things and where you can nourish and restore. And creativity was a big part of that for me. And I remember giving myself permission to not only create, but to write and to compose and to dream and daydream. And now here I am 27 years later, still on a mental health journey. It looks a little different. I do a lot of mindfulness, I do a lot of meditation. I'm a veteran of the military. I work with a lot of veterans who have suffered, post-traumatic stress, and I work with them in different ways. So I'm now in a position where I can give all of those gifts that were given to me on this campus and pay it forward. I'm excited you're asking the question, because you have these resources available to you now, and I encourage you, through creativity, through connection, and through resources, start the mental health journey now, because you'll be grateful you did it as you take on amazing things like startups and travel the world and essentially change the world.
Alex, you made a great point earlier about surrounding yourself with folks that challenge you and encourage you to do your best. We're getting some great questions about how do you build your team, or how do you even build your friend group? And I'm wondering if you could expand on that a little bit, and then Pava, maybe if you wouldn't mind jumping in at the end of that, because you have a pretty big team now, so we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll also connect it back to the mental health question, and I'm sure Pava can relate. So my startup journey started with kind of the ethos of what I talked about earlier, finding the best people, trying to be around them. I found Farouk. We decided we were going to co-found a company. I spent 2 years on that company, built a team of 6 people. We over COVID worked incubated my house, applied to Y Combinator, thought I was going to drop out and go move to Silicon Valley, and ended up failing pretty badly in that situation. And then the next startup I started, I decided I learned how to code. I taught myself to code. I'm going to go do this as a solo founder, and that I think challenged my mental health journey the most that anything has ever. Because for about a year and a half, I worked, every single day. I was coding 12 hours a day in my room, isolated, and just toiling away. And I had this vision, and it was like, I will do anything it takes to execute on it. And that came at the expense of everything that was kind of the foundation of my mental health, my whole life. And so I think what I realized through starting a company alone is that if you want to do anything great, you're going to do it with other people. And there's a saying like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that was the last time I'll ever start a company alone. I'll put it that way. And so, I realized I need to get around those people again. And so that's why, I ended up booking a one-way ticket to San Francisco, finding my co-founders, and being able to actually start something big now.
I think that I have to think a lot about building teams now. We are 30 people at this point, and we've grown that over the past, 2.5 years. And at each stage, we have always tried to maintain a really, really strong team culture. And one of the reasons for that is that, back to the mental health question, if you want to enjoy the pace of work that a startup is, you really need to love who you're working with. And one thing that really stands out to me is that you have to give people the grace to be a good fit or not, depending on the circumstance and their point in life. After the seed round, I also co-founded EcoMap alone, and then we started to grow really, really, really rapidly at the start of the pandemic. I was absolutely having a breakdown, doing the same thing, coding for hours on end, and it ended up being a group of mentors within the Baltimore ecosystem who realized what was happening and hooked me up with who is now my co-founder, my COO. And from that point, we were growing throughout the pandemic and adding people one by one to the team, and it was really, really easy to get to know them very well, to get to understand who they were and whether or not they would fit in with the company at the stage that we were at. And then we raised our seed round, and we went from 15 people, and we were going to hire another 15. So we were going to double in size, and we had to add on a ton of people very, very rapidly. And out of those 15, 12 of them ended up being fantastic, perfect fits. They are still here to this day. They're awesome contributors to the team. And the 3 that didn't work were the 3 senior managers that we hired. The 3 most important, most expensive, most vetted roles, and the 3 roles that my board was looking at us being like, don't mess this up. And so every single time we got to the realization that one of them was not gonna work out, it was a punch in the gut, because it means that I had to go back to our board, I had to go back to our team and say, we fired them. And each time I felt as if the team was gonna lose confidence in my ability to build a team. And in fact, each time they gained more confidence that we would defend the culture of the team and everyone else, right? And so there is a bit of an intuitive sense that you get when you're building a team or even like a class project or anything you want to do. You'll have that sense in your gut. And I was just talking to Alex about it. You'll know whether or not somebody is a good fit for what you're trying to do, for where they are at and where you are at. And if you have that feeling in your gut that they might not be, that this might not be a good fit, it's not going to change. You're right. And I can tell you, after having spent at least $500,000 being wrong about that and trying to convince myself that they would end up working out, it doesn't. So when it comes to building teams, trust your gut about what is right and cut it short when you know it's not going to work.
I'd love to hear your stories about the impact of other people and who have had an impact on encouraging you, on opening doors for you, and introducing you to other people. So Mia, maybe you could start with that conversation of who did you reach out to, who have allowed this journey to be possible for you, whether they were here on campus or outside of the university?
So I think the biggest person who had an impact on me was Mecca. She actually completely changed my life, not to be dramatic, but again, senior year, I was miserable. I thought I was gonna become a lawyer and go to law school, and Mecca approached me with the idea for Mo.Na, and it opened me up to this whole new world of possibilities. And yeah. I think your mic's
on. My mic. Oh, I wanted to add, Mia and I weren't necessarily friends at the time. She was a stranger, and I knew her through a mutual friend. And I was like, hey, this is so random, but I have an idea.
Yeah, we weren't friends before, so it was kind of random that Mecca approached me with this idea. But it was honestly a sign, and it was. I'm so happy and appreciative that it happened. But I would say Mecca has played a huge role in my life and showing me what's possible and what's out there. And then in terms of the Hopkins resources, FFU has been a huge help for Mo.Na. When we first started Mo.Na, it was a passion project that we began out of our kitchen, and we didn't know like the potential of how it could grow. And FFU made us realize like, okay, we can turn this idea into like an actual business. So it connected us with resources, mentorship, and also another like community of like-minded individuals who are also starting their own thing. So I think that meeting like Kevin and Josh from FFU, that was super awesome and helpful. And so yeah, I think those were like big influences.
And we also got money.
And we got funding, so yeah, that's something else.
Pava, how important is it to have conviction over your ideas during this process? Because I assume that, you know, people are going to challenge you on the crazier your idea, the more people will challenge you on it, or the environment will. So how important it is, and maybe you can share a story about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have actually changed my thinking a lot over the past few years about the advice I give to young founders, having lived through so many stages so rapidly. And really my advice settles now to something of like, really, really vet the idea that you're going to work on. And treat your conviction in the idea with the same way that you need to treat conviction with team members, for example. If you, in your like heart of heart, knows that the idea you're working on is interesting and novel, and if you solve it, that there is like a business model or a nonprofit model that can be sustained by it, you need to stick with that, despite what other people say. Our company does something that is incredibly complicated. It takes me forever to explain, and every time I have to explain it to investors or any other group of people who are not our customer base, they have no idea what I'm talking about. And part of me is like, oh, maybe this is a bad idea to solve. But then I talk to the customers, the organizations that we sell to, and they are obsessed with the fact that we have solved this problem. And that's how I'm reminded that, okay, it is actually something that's worth working on. But I think when I look back on every single idea that I've had in the past that didn't end up working out, there was always part of you that kind of knew something might be off. There's always part of you that goes like, maybe there actually isn't a market for this, or maybe this actually, if I have to pitch it 90 times and no one seems excited about it, maybe that's wrong. Or maybe you just kind of hear that voice in the back of your head being like, actually it's not that important to solve. Whereas with the idea that I have now is honestly an idea that I've been obsessed with since I think it was my sophomore year, when I had built the very, very, very first MVP of this product. It was just as a passion project. It was meant to help out the Hopkins ecosystem. And I remember going to bed, and like right before I fell asleep, I thought in my head, like, wouldn't it be cool if we could build these things across the world? And I didn't come back to that idea for another 6 months. And then I was like, oh, that was a cool thing. But then it kept bothering me over and over and over again until I really decided, like, I've been obsessed with this problem about information access and ecosystems, which is a very niche thing, for a year. Maybe there is something there. And that became the basis of what the company was founded on. So you tend to know, but it might take you a little while to realize that something has really been eating at you enough that you should pursue it.
Yeah, if you're thinking of the same idea months later and it won't go away, maybe it's time to put pen to paper. Let me just have one more question. Alex, you took a flight ticket, you booked a flight ticket one way to San Francisco, so that's the ultimate, just put balloons up in the air and then just see what happens. Talk a little bit about the first few months. Where did you live? Where did you sleep?
Yeah.
What did you eat? And how did you... you didn't just go and start a startup, so how did you find a spot around the ecosystem? And talk a little bit about that journey. It feels a little bit like the actor wannabe who goes to just Hollywood and just sees like, oh, let me see how to make this happen.
Yeah. So like I said, I think for me it's all about being around the best possible people that you can be around. And I guess the story is, right after I graduated, booked a one-way ticket to San Francisco, crashed on my buddy's couch for about 2 months.
That's a good buddy.
And he's also a Hopkins alum. I met him at Hopkins.
Nice.
And I moved out there to go and be around the people at this incubator called Founders Inc. And really the decision to do that started my senior year over intersession. I was figuring out what am I going to do in 6 months when I graduate. And I was working on a startup, and I had the option to go to back to a place I had worked in New York City, a startup studio, incubator there. And something about it just felt comfortable. It felt like I could go there, I could work on my thing. New York is a great place. A lot of my friends, I'm from the East Coast, a lot of my friends are moving there, but that there was something missing, and that if I wanted to really make my startup dream like happen, I need to go to where the center of the action was, which was San Francisco, Silicon Valley. And so I had met someone that summer who was a few years older than me and started a company that went through Y Combinator and was funded by Andreessen Horowitz, which are two like the most renowned startup investors. And he tweeted, and I was scrolling, Twitter over Intersession. He tweeted, "I just moved to San Francisco. If you're going to be here, let's grab coffee." And so I DM'd him and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be there next week. Like, let's meet up." And I hadn't booked anything. This was over Intersession. I was just like kind of putting a feeler out. And he said, "Yeah, come by. Actually, I'm working at this startup incubator called Founders Inc. You should come by." So literally the next day, I booked a flight, and this was over Intersession. I went and I met all the people there, and they said, "When are you moving here?" And I said, "In 4 months after I graduate," and that's basically what I did. So now, I guess a year and a half later, we're funded by Founders Inc. We're servicing over 150,000 developers, and we're growing really rapidly. And it all kind of started from that moment of, all right, I'm gonna go, just go to where the action is. The other point there is that even though it seems really risky when I say that, right? Like, oh, you're just gonna go. It was calculated, right? Like, it was prototyped in a sense. And the prototype was, I'm gonna go there for a week over Intersession and see what this is about before I, just book it. And then even when I did book it, I had no timetable. I thought I might return back to New York 2 months, try to raise some money, come back to New York. And now I've been there since. So, I think the lesson is take calculated risks, and sometimes they pay off.
Our next question, we got a couple actually come in with this one, is near and dear to my heart, and it's, what do you do if you decide to major in the humanities? I'm an English major. Bill, wondering if you could take this. You're a humanities person. Tell us a little bit about some of the companies you've worked for as a humanities major.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I majored in international studies and Russian while I was here. I never would have predicted that years later I would be working in technology, but I've worked at places like IBM, Microsoft, and now Adobe. I was also in consulting for 20 years. So in that space, I served across all industries. So it was this really kind of beautiful opportunity to get a feel for every type of industry and company you can imagine in consulting, and worked a lot with tech startups along the way. And I can tell you that the classes I took here at Johns Hopkins, for example, Introduction to Fiction and Poetry was one of the most important classes I took. And I'm proud to say I just published my first book of poetry a couple weeks ago. Thank you. Never thought I would do that. And I will tell you that, thank you. This morning, before all this started, I walked to Gilman Hall. You'll get to know Gilman Hall. And 27 years ago, I took Introduction to Fiction and Poetry, and I loved that class for so many reasons, like you talked about, Mia. Creativity, right? It's medicine. It's how we heal. I see the world through a poet's eyes and a songwriter's eyes. I took a copy of my book back to Gilman, and I put it in front of the door of that classroom, and I took a picture of it. And it meant so much to me, because I never would have thought at 45 years old I'd be a published poet and author, but I am. So classes like that changed my life. Classes like the Anthropology of Love was an Intersession course, changed the way I thought about relationships. I say all this from the standpoint of humanities because I use every skill set that I learned in the humanities world, writing, philosophy, connecting, anthropology, the human experiment, right, that we encounter every single day. I learned in the walls on this campus. And I think it's made me very successful in tech. Tech, as we're talking about today, right? What is tech? It's an enabler. It's a human enabler. And yes, we're reading about stories about Cruise and Waymo and the cars in San Francisco, and those are interesting, but at the heart of it is the human being. What are we trying to do? We're trying to connect with each other. We're trying to heal. We're trying to find ourselves in this big, crazy world. To me, that's where humanities came in. I'm grateful. I call on that every single day. Thank you.
The next question that I wanted to highlight is we're getting a lot about how do you cultivate your motivation? You know, like either because you burn out after failure or maybe you get complacent at some point. What have you all done to kind of nurture your inner spark that keeps driving you forward through failure? And Mecca, maybe hand it off to you, and then Pava.
I definitely think something that motivates me is sleep. Like, if you're not feeling well, just go to sleep. And taking care of myself. But then also, I try to get inspired. I try to do random things to get inspired. I'll take a new class. I'll take a random class so I can feel excitement and joy. I'll try dancing. I'll read books. I think trying new things keeps me motivated, and also just talking to random people, like having conversations with a random 80-year-old woman, like you never know what she has to say. And I think just being curious about the world, because there's so much that you don't know, and that's okay. I don't think the point of life is to know everything. I think the point of life is just to be here and to feel good and to create things and to connect with people. So yeah, I just try to stay inspired by trying new things.
I'd say I have two pieces of advice here, one which is perhaps not very helpful, but because everyone says it, right? Work on what you love. I know it sounds like total fluff, but it really does mean something. If you love the topic that you're working on, you don't mind working on it all the time. I absolutely am obsessed with the idea that we have and kind of what we're building, and I do not mind putting in the crazy hours to make that happen because it is something that I'm genuinely interested in. In fact, that really was the reason I had dropped out of computer science, other than advanced computer science courses take a lot of time, is that I was really interested in systems, and sociology is all about how the systems of society work. And when I swapped to that, it was so fun to go work on my coursework because I was really obsessed with that idea, that topic. So first off, like really do take your time here to try to find what topic you genuinely enjoy, because that is where the intrinsic motivation comes in. And don't be worried if you swap majors 4 times to do it, right? Take all the classes, take the seminars, take the intercession courses, because that makes it a lot easier. The more practical piece of advice is that honestly, the busier I was, the more effective I was. If I had downtime, I would waste all of it. If I had room in my schedule, I could not be motivated to do anything. And so being a startup founder forces you to not have time to do anything, and so it's really great at working seriously. But if you find that you're one of those people where if you have too much downtime, you don't get anything done, try adding things to your plate, even if it's like going to the gym or hanging out with friends more, because work expands to fill the time that you give it. And so one of my best strategies was waking up at 4 a.m. and doing all of my homework before it was due at 9, because there's no option. You can't procrastinate it then. And so that's the practical advice.
A lot of your stories, are about failure or trial and error after you graduated, like, you know, post-graduation. Can you go back a little bit to your time at Johns Hopkins University? Those few years at Johns Hopkins, what were your stories of trial and error? What was the class that gave you a heartache and maybe it didn't work out that potentially changed the trajectory of your career? Maybe it was the relationship that didn't work out really well with a faculty member or with a co-founder or with an experiment that you were trying out. What didn't work while you were at Hopkins, and how you were able to deal with it? Bill, I'm looking at you to see if you can remember some stories there.
I absolutely remember. Even though it was 27 years ago, I remember it pretty well. I will tell you that when I first came as a freshman, again, I was coming from a unique place. I went to high school in Moscow, Russia. So I was paired with an academic advisor who was from Russia. And they said, oh, well, you're coming from Russia. We'll put you with the Russian academic advisor. And he was a rocket scientist. His name was Vyacheslav Shakurov, and he's a brilliant man. But I shouldn't have been paired with a rocket scientist. I was a person who was going to pursue the humanities. And so that didn't work out well, and I ended up taking calculus and chemistry and physics, and these are all fascinating things to me now at 45, but when I was sitting in your seats, I was not prepared for it. And so that's how I ended up on academic probation. I failed all those classes. Now, luckily, I came back and there was an academic advisor. His name was Dr. Goodyear. I kid you not. He was an incredible human. And he sat down with me and he said, hang on a second. Let's understand who you are. Let's understand where you grew up and how you see the world. Tell me about yourself. And this is long before everything was online. We had these little pamphlets where the courses were. And I told him about myself, and he went through and he said, here's a great course, The Political Geography of Europe. You spent 6 years in Eastern Europe watching things change, watching revolutions happen, watching democracy in its infancy. I think you'd be great at this course. The problem was it was a graduate level course, and I was a second semester freshman. And he said, so what? You should take it. So I took a 500 level course as a second semester freshman, and it turned around my trajectory at Hopkins because I loved the course. I did really well at the course. Now, the graduate students didn't like me because they were like, who's this freshman and why is he getting better grades than we are? But because I could speak specifically to what the topic was, I had just lived there for 6 years, and my stories mattered, and my experience mattered, and I saw the world differently. And that changed my outcome. And so I am grateful for Dr. Goodyear. If he ever hears this, thank you, because you changed my life. And then on top of that, I'd also say courses like The Self-Made Man was taught by Carolyn Eastman, who was a TA at the time. And she pulled me aside and said, you've written one of the finest essays I've ever read on the importance of being self-made. And here we are on a panel talking about startups and taking your ideas into action. And she changed the trajectory for me. So I think a lot about that every day.
Yeah, that speaks a lot to the power of being seen, of somebody actually sees you for maybe what you don't recognize in yourself and sees your own strengths. Mecca, was there someone like that for you during your journey at Hopkins?
Yeah. So I struggled to make friends my freshman year of college. I think a lot of you might experience that, but that's okay. But I think through struggling to make friends, I found one person who I could really connect with really well, and we became roommates sophomore year of college, and we still live together today. But she also was pursuing her creativity at the time, and she was pre-medicine at Hopkins. She was getting straight A's, and she was also pursuing an acting career simultaneously. And now she does acting full-time, which I think is the coolest thing ever. But she always says things to me like, oh, like, if you never quit, you'll never fail. And like, you never want to be the smartest person in the room, and that, you know, failing is one of the best things that could happen to you. And to me, that's very inspirational because I often feel like a failure. I consider myself a professional failure, but it's nice when you have someone in your life to remind you that failure is normal and failure is okay, and that when you just try new things, like, you can create a life beyond what you could have ever imagined. Because when she started acting, she never imagined being able to pursue a career in acting, especially because there's no resources at Hopkins to do that. But she figured out how to do it on her own. And it's like, yeah, like, obviously I'm going to take advice from you. Like, you're doing something amazing. So, yeah.
We're about to head into the home stretch here, and so wondering if we can do a two-parter through the whole panel. One, if people want to learn more about you and your work, where can they go? Whether it's a website or looking you up on LinkedIn. And then maybe just one last piece of advice you have for the class, short and sweet. Pava, other than waking up at 4 a.m.,
Seriously, it works.
Give me another piece of advice and how people can find out more about you.
Yeah, well, first off, my name's Pava, P-A-V-A. It's pretty easy to track me down. You can find me on LinkedIn. If anybody does want to chat, like, my Calendly is linked on my website, I think, and you could just schedule time. I'm not good with email, so you can find me there, or EcoMap Tech is the company that we run. You can find us on all the socials, all of that. I'd say the one piece of advice would be a bit what I had mentioned earlier. Go try as many things as you possibly can during your time here. It is so easy to fall into one track, to focus on what you chose as a major, but this is your time to go try as many things, take as many courses, do as many clubs to really find what you're passionate about. And if you land on something, remember that your career doesn't start after you graduate, your career starts now, right? For some of you, even earlier. And so if that's the case, awesome, pursue that. And if you don't know what you love yet, take this time to go find it. Just try things, do things, sign up for things, drop out of them if they don't end up working out. You got till your junior year, so.
Yeah, you can find me, I guess the URL is shaq.lol. Like Shaquille O'Neal, S-H-A-Q. Has all my LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. Yeah, final advice, I guess going back to the failure point, when I look back at my time at Hopkins, I came in and was criminally overcommitted. I literally was doing, varsity basketball, studying computer science, trying to start a startup, was singing a cappella. I joined everything you could join, which I think was the right move. But at the same time, I think I failed to realize the value of focus. And eventually, you'll get to a point where you have to pick one thing, and that one thing is like where you put all your focus. And so, I would just encourage you to understand what stage are you at. And right now, you're starting a new chapter. It's a time for exploration and to get curious and to try a bunch of stuff in a low commitment way. And anything, I think ideas, conviction in ideas, and your career path is a lot like dating. You just try, and you kind of you start with small prototypes, and then you eventually ramp up, right? You don't get married right away. So use this time to explore, and then realize when it is time to commit, and then just go all in on that thing. Yeah.
Very good.
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Bill Kirst, K-I-R-S-T. As was mentioned, the podcast is called Coffee and Change. It's on all podcast platforms if you want to listen there. I encourage you to follow me on LinkedIn. Again, follow versus connect, right? There's the follow, which means you can see all my stuff, versus connect. And then as far as, some advice, I would certainly say that the world is small. And as we talked about sort of the oneness that you all experience as part of being Hopkins, right? The world is very small. One of your classmates that's sitting here today, his mom was my boss, right? So you never know how small the world is going to get. But as far as the time you have here, this is the time and the place where you get to expand your capacity to learn and engage new ideas as global citizens. That is not a small thing. And I encourage you to expand your capacity to listen. Really, really listen. My dad taught me, you were born with 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen in that ratio. Strengthen your capacity to forgive. I think we're in a really interesting time in our lives right now in the world. And we don't see enough. The word grace was used earlier. I'm so glad the word grace was used. Extend that grace. And oftentimes that starts by forgiving yourself, right? We heard about the stories up here. Forgiving yourself is oftentimes the hardest work to do. Do that, and then give somebody else a second chance. Pay it forward. Gift that forgiveness going forward. And remember that you are going to change lives. Many of you are going to save lives in this world and in this work. And the last thing I'd say is, there's a piece of advice somebody told me a couple years ago that stuck with me. And they said, you may even surprise yourself learning that you're as much a healer as you are a teacher. So go out, do great things, and embrace the healer and the teacher.
You can find Mo.Na at Mo.Na.gems on Instagram, and our website is monagems.com. And my advice is, if you're creative, if you're an artist, I actually think that going to Hopkins and being an artist is one of the best things that could happen to you. So if you're creative, definitely pursue your art interests while you're here, like as a hobby. Check out the Digital Media Center. They have a lot of resources there. If you like photography, they have great professional cameras. They have film equipment. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of your parents have told you, don't pursue art, you're gonna end up homeless and on the streets. Like, that's not actually true. I think going to Hopkins taught me how to be disciplined with my art, add structure to my life, and I've been really surprised by the outcome of what it means to be an artist and have gone to Hopkins. So don't be scared to be creative.
That's great advice. I agree with that. Yeah, so you can find Mo.Na at Mo.Na Gems on Instagram. And then I also have an art page on Instagram. You should follow it. It's at Oil Paint Stinks. I like do painting as well. But some advice I would give is, like, this sounds super cheesy, but I think you have to believe in yourself in order to accomplish your goals, and manifestation is real. So if you keep telling yourself something and you're working towards a goal every day, you'll be able to accomplish that goal like 100%. If you don't know what your goal is yet, like, don't ignore your passions and find what you're passionate about. And I think that's something I struggled with when I was in college. I was like denying my inner artist, but just embrace it, and everything's gonna work out. So yeah.
Good.
Well, I just want to encourage all of you. We've heard so much good story and so much good advice today. And I encourage you, you've heard a multiplicity of ideas, you know, and there is no one size fits all for your journey or their journey. But I'm hoping that you remember some of these points that were raised today. And I hope that you connect with each one of these panelists, whether it's digitally or in person after this talk. They're gonna stick around and shake some hands and say hi to you afterwards. On a similar note, we encourage you to come visit our professional staff, both at FastForward U on the southern end of campus or the Life Design Lab up here at the northern end. We have so many amazing opportunities coming up this semester and this year to ideate, to network, to connect, and to take your ideas and move forward with them creatively in whatever field that you are thinking about. And many of those are profiled on the materials that were on your chairs when you came in this morning. Speaking of those, one of those is a sticker, of course, that you may have seen. This talks about taking risks and moving forward. And, you know, for me at least, that's one of the big takeaways that I'm hearing from the panel this morning, is that they all took risks and they all moved forward, even through the failure, even through the setbacks, even through the adjustments. And I think that we can agree that these folks embody that sentiment and embody the very best of what Hopkins has to offer. And we are confident that you are going to go forth and do that same kind of work, to embrace challenges and opportunities with zeal and with courage and with an attitude of boldness. So can you join me in thanking our panel for their time today? Yeah. And can we also, again, thank Dr. Farouk Dey for all of his incredible work and his words of wisdom. And before you leave, our panel wants to stand here real quick and take a selfie with all of you in the backdrops. So while we do this, can you, maybe not any like obscene language, but can you like just give us a wave or a high five or something like that?
Who's good at that?
I have long arms. I don't know if that means we're good or not. And I got to reverse.
You're going to have to step forward, Josh.
Is it? That's as far as mine goes. All right, are we good? Everybody
Look at the
in?
green dots. Green
All
dots.
right, class. High fives, cheers. Here we go. Innovate, move forward. Yay! We're proud of you. Go have a good day. Take care.